The NFL draft is officially in the rearview mirror. 2024 just around the corner. We're going to start seeing some OTAs, some training camp announcements, all that good stuff. But for now, bit of a lull. So, what better time than the present to take stock of how that first round and beyond played out and where some of the fantasy football names that are going to be making impacts this season ended up? Joined as always by our fantasy football guru, Devin Gallant. Devin, how are you doing today, bud?
Good, Kyle. Thanks for having me today. Kind of happy to take off my pretend draft expert cap and go back to some fantasy football, and let's start looking forward to the next season.
Yeah, the heck with X's and O's. It's how many touchdowns and receptions and PPR points are you going to put up for me every week, right?
That's right. I don't want to watch any more offensive line tape. It was too much. Let's move on.
Yeah, Joe Alt was a fun name for a couple weeks for you, and now you don't need to think about him anymore, right?
Oh, what a beast, though. Holy crap.
Well, we might as well start with the glamour position. And you know what? There was six of them that went in the top 12. So starting at the quarterback, right off the top here, I mean, you got kind of four really interesting names and kind of two projects who they might start here and there. I think probably one of them more so than the other. But out of the bona fide starters, right, we've got obviously Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, and then JJ McCarthy. Whose landing spot did you like the best? Not in terms of what skill set they bring to the table, but just in terms of team fit after the draft wrapped up there.
Well, I mean, you said it perfectly. Like when we were talking about getting on the podcast and talking about what rookies are going to make an impact in fantasy, I kind of listed you want draft capital, you want team build, you want talent, and you want touches. So there's like four things that you really want to look at. And for Caleb Williams, just knocked it out of the park with all four. He's the most talented quarterback we've seen in years. There's no argument that he is going to be a day one starter. I don't think there's going to be any competition from Tyson Bagent or Brett Rippon.
No, you're not confident in that.
He is the most talented quarterback. He can do everything in the offense. I'm not a huge fan of Shane Waldron, but like even Shane Waldron can't really mess him up. And he's walking into a ready built offense. The offensive line is young, but is growing, and he has three elite receivers to work with.
Yeah. And I think out of the four we kind of rattled off there, I'm bullish on two and bearish on the other two, right? And you obviously talked about Caleb Williams there. He's walking into a fantastic situation in terms of you got DJ Moore, you got Keenan Allen, you got Roma Dunze, you've got Cole Kmet, you got
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift. So the weapons are there. There's no, oh, is he going to have to play clipboard duty for the first 2 weeks as, they kind of ease him into it? It's going to be the day one starter. He's going to be surrounded by a pretty impressive cast. And I mean, the one question mark you can kind of put up is that offensive line, though improved, still not, I would say, a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. So had he been more of a traditional, pocket quarterback like a Peyton Manning who doesn't bring any kind of scramble ability, be a little bit more worried. But you saw him running for his life at USC, so we know he can make throws on the run. So it's a little bit of a concern, but not nearly as big of a concern as what Justin Fields had to go through when there was just turnstiles in front of him when he was a rookie. So he obviously lands in a fantastic situation. And I think JJ McCarthy kind of similar as well too, in terms of you take day one and all of a sudden it's Addison, it's Jefferson, right? You've got Aaron Jones all of a sudden is in the backfield now, and TJ Hawkinson. Again, we'll see what kind of return from injury he's going to have, but still, these are plug and play day one viable fantasy contributors who are going to make his transition to the NFL a whole heck of a lot easier. So I really like the situations that both of them are landing in. Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye, though talented, it's not a knock on their talent. It's just, Washington, they're still rebuilding here. The Patriots, who's he throwing the ball to, right? So there's more question marks to me with those two than the aforementioned two who land in pretty favorable situations and could end up putting up, top 20, top 25. QB numbers pretty easily without needing to do anything special in 2024.
I mean, yeah, you're completely right about the landing spot for McCarthy. He's walking into a already built offense. He's going to excel under Kevin O'Connell. He's just going to run that offense as he is done in Michigan. He just drops back, makes the passes, completes them, and does his job. From a fantasy impact, though, I don't see JJ McCarthy cracking the top 12 quarterbacks. I wouldn't be looking at drafting him. There is that kind of upside with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison just making plays and scoring touchdowns. But despite how well McCarthy performed at the combine, he doesn't rush. He's
No.
not a scrambling quarterback. He doesn't give you that extra bonus. Where Caleb Williams does. I think he had over like 300 rushes in his college career. And of course, there's Jayden Daniels, who I'm kind of low on. I don't think he's gonna really last, but he has the potential to get you 800 rushing yards and another 6 touchdowns. So there is like, if you're sitting at the end of your first round, or sorry, the end of your draft and you don't have a quarterback, I'd rather throw a dart on Jayden Daniels than I would on JJ McCarthy.
I think in my mind here, you are going to ride some absolute valleys, and then all of a sudden, Jayden Daniels has the ability to go out and put up 37 points one week, right? And it's because of that rushing ability. I think McCarthy has some value in obviously, super flex leagues and whatnot where you're starting multiple QBs, but he's someone that I would be a little bit more interested in having as a break in case of emergency quarterback. He's kind of your backup quarterback, not one that is going to sit on the waiver wire by any stretch of the imagination, but someone who, if you're in bye week, if you're starting QB has, an injury or something short term that you can kind of ride him for a couple of weeks. I think it's there, right? Because I think his floor is a lot safer than Daniels. I think Daniels, if you're starting him, he'll either win you a week or he will be the reason you probably lost that week because, he threw 3 picks, fumbled the ball twice, and didn't, score a touchdown, right? So he could be one that's flirting with that Mendoza line as far as he actually putting up negative points for you this week. But absolutely, like he's the most electric rusher out of any of these quarterbacks, and probably out of any quarterback who's been drafted in recent memory as well, too. So the upside's tantalizing, but if I'm, putting together a team here and I have a choice between those two, I had better have a quarterback without any kind of injury history already on my roster and hoping that he gets through a full season and you can kind of, oh, well, this is a juicy matchup here. It's a Civ run defense. Maybe we flirt with the idea of starting Daniels rather than, unless it's a dynasty league where you're going to be stashing these guys already. I'm a little bit more concerned about him just because of the lack of offensive weapons in front of him. That offensive line's questionable, and I think he's going to be taken off and running. So if he's not, if they put a spy on him and they've got an active linebacker who can go sideline to sideline and kind of bottle him up, you might be, score box watching and going, oh God, I just need to get 5 points out of you today, Jayden. Can you get me there?
Yeah, exactly what you said. And that's why I wasn't a huge fan of Daniels going into the draft as like an overall prospect, because as soon as he gets pressure, he's just running. He does not look to continue the passing play. As soon as he has any pressure in his face, he's just scrambling. And Washington does not have an offensive line, so he is going to be doing that a lot, which honestly bodes well for fantasy. So, like you said, he is high risk, high reward. But if I'm looking for a backup quarterback, I didn't take one early. I didn't get a Josh Allen or anyone early in the draft. I'm gonna kind of more throw a dart at Daniels and just see what I can get out of him.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of fantasy hope for Drake Maye this year beyond just, hey, we picked the week where he happened to put up, a serviceable stat line? Or is he someone that you think is probably going to be on most, standard 12 team league single QB waiver wires for most of the season?
So prior to recording this, we are just discussing. I'm actually actively in a draft for my dynasty league, and I offered a lot of picks to move up and get Drake May. But that's for dynasty. This
Mhm.
year, I have no interest in Drake May whatsoever. I think if Patriots are even remotely smart, they just kind of sit him for at least half the year. They let Jacoby Brissett take over. They don't have an offensive line. We really need to get these receivers developed because they took two in this draft, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. I think those are very good receivers, but they need a year. And the rest of the room is like Jalen Reagor, KJ Osborne, Kayshawn Booty, Pop Douglas, Kendrick. They have so many bodies in there, but they haven't established the receiving hierarchy.
Mhm.
So I don't think Drake May is really going to do much this season. Although going forward, I think he might end up challenging Caleb Williams for being the best fantasy quarterback out of this entire draft.
Yeah, I think he's bang on at what you just said there, right? He's a project. He's something that in dynasty leagues, absolutely draft him, stash him. But for right now, I mean, if you're riding Drake May to carry you to a championship in 2024, I can all but guarantee you're probably missing the playoffs altogether at that point. But I mean, Drake May, very enticing prospect, just needs a supporting cast around him. The other two, and I know for those that have followed along at DynastyPressBox.com, you've got some thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons selection there, but does Bo Nix intrigue you at all, or is he kind of in the same camp as May as far as, you know what, he'll probably get the snaps a couple weeks into the season, but ceiling is kind of capped as far as what he can do this year at least.
Yeah, you said it right. The ceiling is capped. I have a hard time believing they're gonna keep Cortland Sutton on the roster right now. They did their whole jersey reveal up in Denver, and Sutton's image was not part of any of that. So it seems like they're kind of ready to move on. They brought in another receiver who is Bo Nix's teammate to, but like he kind of pairs up exactly what Marvin Mims did, and they didn't use Marvin Mims last season either. And I just don't see Bo Nix, like he'll get the starting job because he's not going to lose it to Jarrett Stidham or Ben DiNucci or Zach Wilson, I guess is now there. So he's going to start, but he's just not really going to make much of an impact this year.
Yeah.
Sean Payton thinks he is going to be the next great thing, I guess. But there's a lot of weird things that came out of Sean Payton's mouth over this past weekend.
Yeah. Now, Sean Payton is the classic soundbite of I'm talking just for the sake of talking. And some of it makes sense, some of it's just coach speak and jargon. But I'm again looking at the Broncos supporting cast, looking at the fact that they play in the AFC West, say what you will about what the Raiders and the Chargers did. Like they're kind of at least on the upswing. I think the Broncos are still in that rebuild. I don't think they, maybe they have the kind of the dead cat bounce this season, but I don't think this is a team on the rise yet. I think they still kind of need to bottom out a little bit more, have one more really solid draft class, and then that's when you're going to see him kind of take that next level. So again, I kind of see Bo Nix floating on the waiver wires. Maybe you start him because of injury or something, or there's a juicy matchup or bye week hell, whatever the case might be. But he's not going to be someone I think that's going to be headlining a lot of waiver wire claim bids as far as people's leagues are concerned this season. And Michael Penix Jr., is it even worth talking about him for 2024, barring Kirk Cousins blowing out a knee? Like, what's your take on everyone's favorite reach?
Yeah, no, it is. I keep hearing all these podcasts that are trying to justify that pick, and I think it's hilarious. I'm sure you had such bad quarterback play that you needed two of them. But unless something comes out that Kirk Cousins is completely not ready to start the season, Penix won't touch the field. He's not going to touch the field for at least 2 years. So Cousins is the guy. He has a good structure around him. So I have zero interest in Penix right now.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way, right? Like, you know what? Nice story. Maybe even in a dynasty league, you kind of
Yeah.
take a flyer on him, but even in a dynasty league, there's so many more intriguing, impactful players that it can help you now. That are you really even wasting, a first round, maybe even a second round pick on someone who's probably not going to play until 2 years from now, based on how Cousins' contract is kind of structured. So again, this isn't a knock on the player because I actually like Michael Penix Jr. as far
I
as
agree.
a prospect. I just hate the situation that he landed in. Like it's probably like a B plus prospect for me, F minus if that's even possible landing spot in terms of 2024.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like it's so bad that they're just bringing in this. Well, they paid all this money to Kirk Cousins to bring into the locker room, who hasn't established himself with those teammates, and now they're bringing in a younger prospect who honestly fits the culture in Atlanta better than Kirk Cousins will. So
Mhm.
it's not going to be long until that locker room is divided, and Penix is going to like. There's going to be demands to get Penix to start. So that's my like biggest issue with the pick. But like you said, Penix is a decent prospect. Like he will put up numbers in a couple of seasons, but you just can't cut those checks for Kirk Cousins and then just not play him.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.